Out is Chris Curtis, so Fluffy Hernandez is to fight Roman Kopylov on short notice. Out is Fluffy Hernandez, so in on short notice is Josh Fremd, a guy who won a fight a few weeks ago weighing 189 pounds. And out of that, he was looking for a new contract. Well, gosh darn it, he got it. So Matt, Josh Fremd, represented by Jason House, a manager who's known to corner his fighters, which is a little bit unorthodox. But for Fremd, his last time out, he got the win over Jamie Pickett. And he's riding somewhat of a win streak coming into this matchup. Fremd's one of those guys where you knew that in the bright moments, sometimes he didn't shine himself the brightest. You saw that against Gregory Rodriguez in the middleweight main event. It was the finale of a little bit of a tournament, 4-man tournament that they had for the belt. Fremd got finished in that matchup, but he moved it forward. He fought on a Dana White's looking for a fight card, and then he ended up in the UFC. Lost in a matchup to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Then he was on the losing end against Tresean Gore. It was like if you had a friend that liked to take daisies and go and pop the head. Like, you saw a Gore submission that was absolutely grotesque. So, for Fremd, his last 2 times out, he's definitely proven some people wrong. Gets the win over SD Dumas as an underdog. Utilized that Slippery Rock Wrestling University wrestling that he has in his back pocket. And then his last time out did about the same against Pickett. And this is the part that I have to accentuate in a fight like this against these two guys, Matt. Roman Kopylov was in the same position not that long ago, and both of these fighters are a reason that you morons that fill up comment sections and Twitter comments have to just take a step back. And this is my point. When people go, why do you guys talk about fights that happened years ago? This fight is precisely why you go back and you watch what got these guys to the dance. Because for Roman Kopylov, he was a fresh-faced newcomer with AMC Fight Nights Global. He became their middleweight champ on a 7-fight finish streak, comes into the UFC and loses by submission to Kyle Robertson. Takes a lot of time off and loses to Albert Duraev. And everybody casts these guys off when they lose 2 fights to start the UFC career as chopped liver. Well, sure enough, Roman Kopylov in his last 3 fights has finished his last 3 opponents, and all you had to do was watch how impressive he was in the regional scene to be able to tell people that, geez, this guy's a pretty good fighter, and not just a guy on a 2-fight losing streak, not just some rando. So
I guess, but I gotta also say, I've never seen a guy start his UFC career off on 2 losses and immediately thought to myself, oh, he's gonna fight for the title soon. Like, I think both parties do have a little bit of merit to them. I agree with you. You do have to go back and look at the body of work somebody had, but I've never, and I watched a lot of UFC and MMA, I've never seen a person get their career off to an 0-2 start and immediately thought, wow, they're destined for big things.
No, but when you're trying to talk about the fights, you can't just go, well, this guy lost.
You can't call people morons, though, for not believing in people who start their career 0-2. That's all.
You just look at people they're the type of people that talk to their friends and they go, geez, did you hear about that? And then you question them on it and they're like, oh, no, I just read the headline. They're headline news readers. They're mouth breathers, and at the same time...
And I agree with their big point, it turns out.
They don't see the forest through the trees. So when it comes to a fight like this, when you look at Josh Fremd, when you look at Roman Kopylov, they do it in different ways. Fremd is one of those guys that's going to strike to wrestle, and then once he gets down and the fight to the mat, he can be a little bit tricky. And for Kopylov, tricky southpaw sidewinder, performance bonuses last time out against Claudio Ribeiro, an awesome accuracy to his shots in the first round of that one. He did get stung by that big, what was it, a left hand that Ribeiro was able to throw. If it wasn't, it was a straight right. But regardless, at the very end of the first round in that one, only to follow it up with an undefended head kick to knock his block off. So when you look at this one, Matt, 2 guys at different points in their career, it does feel like a big step up for Fremd on the shorter notice in this matchup. Though in total, Kopylov had a month to get ready for a fight in Vegas, and Fremd had, what, like a week, 2 weeks?
It is a big step up for Fremd, especially his level of competition, but I do think he has all the skills to go out there and win this fight, especially if he can figure out what Kopylov is doing at range. But there's one big thing about Josh Fremd that even in his last fight that he won, he does, and I don't like it. When he's uncomfortable on the outside on the feet, he will have that tendency to just rush for the clinch, and if he's doing that against a guy like Kopylov, not shooting it for takedowns, it's very different. Closing the distance for a body-to-body overhook, underhook is more just you getting your head out of danger and then trying to chain wrestle from that position, which are things he can do, don't get me wrong. It's just, if he's doing that against Roman Kopylov, more cognizant of, hey, I gotta get myself out of danger instead of, hey, I gotta take him down so he's less of a threat. I think that's a big difference in mindset and execution too, because if Fremd is just trying to clinch up to avoid some of those bigger shots on the outside, Kopylov still does have deceiving power in weird angles too. He can get uppercuts uppercuts, even when you're chest to chest. He'll hit you with weird shots. And I think those are the types of shots that could hurt Fremd and get his attention. But if Fremd can use some of those entrances to take down Kopylov, it's going to be a completely different fight because Kopylov will load up a lot on his shots. I do like the accuracy, don't get me wrong. Even on his hooks and his overhands, he does do a pretty good job of once he throws them, he does land on his point. But he can get caught loading up a lot of those bigger power shots, and if he does find himself not just throwing the techniques for the techniques, if he is trying to knock out Josh Fremd and not letting the knockout come to him, it can be a really difficult night for Kopylov, because for as good of a striker as he is once he's moving forward, fighting the fight on his terms, when he's moving backwards, not that he's a bad fighter by any means, he's still a very dangerous one at that, but it eliminates a lot of the tools from his own toolbox. You bring up the head kick. Kicks are something he does a lot better when he has his opponent behind the black lines than when he is behind the black lines. And when he's able to start incorporating the kicks along with his boxing, he becomes a much more difficult fighter to deal with.
And my mistake, Kopylov got his performance bonus against Puna Soriano as an underdog in that win, but the last 3 fights he retires Manzo. Alessio Di Chirico beats Puna Soriano, and then very, very recently was able to get the win over Claudio Ribeiro. For Josh Fremd, you've seen him succeed against long-rangey strikers like Joel Bauman on the regional scene. But when you do look at this, I did listen to an interview, My MMA News, John Eric Poli, one of the best stressed interviewers out there, always in suit and tie. And Poli asked them about the new deal. It's a new 4-fight deal for Josh Fremd. He said he took 4 or 5 days, more or less, to reset, get back in the gym, try not to blow up in terms of the weight, which is obviously underlined by a little bit of a funny thing, being 189 your last time out. And he said, the weight cut made my arms feel like 1,000,000 pounds. That was a quotable from his last time out because he was at 189. So, Matt, back-to-back Southpaw camps for Fremd, as he said in his own words in that interview. So he's looking forward to another one in this matchup. Kopylov is a big favorite at about a 3-1. We have a look at the Topology votes. Surprise us there to you. Topology voters been wild lately. I'm going to say over under 85% Kopylov.
I'll say over.
I'm going to say over. It's, oh my. 776 total votes, 96% Kopylov, 84% by knockout. For the 4% that are Fremd, 27% by knockout and 43% by decision. Matt, I'd like to hear from the fans as to who they have in this one and why. For me, I have Roman Kopylov. I think that tricky southpaw striking is going to lend credence when it does, whether it's at distance or in the pocket. I think he has such an advantage with the striking and the power. We even saw it in the fight against Albert Duraev. He's able to bust up that eye that always gets busted up. So for Kopylov, though, he did struggle in the takedowns, but Duraev is very good. He's like a dog on a bone with those takedowns. That got him to the ACA, ACB, welterweight, and middleweight championship. So for me, I do have Kopylov in this one. Trains a lot with Armin Petrosian at Universal Fighters and Ratty Team. You've seen Kopylov out of that gym as well, with Rasul Magomed Aliyev as his coach. So for me, Kopylov trains with a lot of wrestlers and a very, very good striker in this division. So I do have him in the fight.
I've also got Kopylov, but again, if he does find himself waiting behind those 2 black lines, trying to set up that one big power shot, and not really reacting as well to, hey, I'm striking, now I'm digging for underhooks, trying to defend takedowns, I think he is going to be able to win this fight, largely based on the striking advantage I perceive that he has. But again, if Fremd can get him backed up, get him up against the cage, and force him to try and decipher what's a strike and what's a takedown, I think he can go out there and get the win, but I do have Kopylov.
Both of us going with Roman Kopylov to get the win. Some big-time fights on this card, including the title fight in the main event. And hey, a co-main event. It's Kevin Holland taking on Jack Della Maddalena. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.